glitches sorted, and Adetunji Omotola is back. Good to see you. And actually, I wanted us to look at your observations leading up to this big day, which is 29 days from now.
Okay. Well, let's start with the big story first. It's been a dramatic 24 hours with the APC presidential candidate, former Senator Ahmed Bola Tinubu, otherwise known as Asiwaju. He made some comments that have ricocheted across the political spectrum. He talks about sabotage. He talks about people using the oil scarcity as a weapon, weaponizing the oil scarcity. And he also talked about the redesigning of the Naira. So, but he then went on to say that whatever sabotage people are up to, the powerful forces, that they will still win the election. And he said it in Yoruba in a place called Abeokuta in Ogun State. And if you remember, a few months ago, the same Ahmed Bola Tinubu made the famous Emilokon statement, "It's my turn." So people are saying that, look, he's self-sabotaging himself. He's actually attacking the president because these are policies of the government from the central bank. And there's been bedlam from many sectors about his statements. In fact, some people believe that he's unhinged and that he's not fit to be president. So that's that with Ahmed Bola Tinubu. Of course, with the major leading opposition party, the PDP, there's still that crisis that dogs the party. In fact, there's been a tape that has come out where one of the daughters of Alhaji Abubakar Atiku, the PDP flag bearer, in that tape he was played by so-called whistleblower Mike Achimugu. They're talking about, look, in fact, it was heard, the voice said that a father thinks that money is everything, that he doesn't listen. So Atiku Abubakar believes that it's all about money to get to power. And she then talks about him having lost many elections, but that he's quite rigid. And she goes on to allege that if the man becomes president, her father, that he will really punish the leader of the G5 in the PDP, Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State. So there's been a lot of drama there as well. Atiku's been going ahead campaigning in different places, and so has Tinubu as well. So those two stories come to mind. They're quite loud, and they're shaking the political firmament, as it were.
Well, I'm happy you've been following things, and some of the key concerns were actually raised. I recall then we had Peter Esele, the former president of TUC. He was live on Politics HQ, and he asked the question: is the political party, the ruling party, ready to win this election? Because when you go into an election year, there are a lot of things you should fix to curry favors from the people and ultimately get votes. Now, Adetunji, looking at what Nigerians are going through, petrol scarcity, quite a number of things happening with the interest rate also being increased. Do you think that, honestly, what you have heard from Bola Tinubu should be swept under the carpet?
Look, I think this election really is not going to be, I think it's a referendum on the current government. The government of President Muhammadu Buhari, who was elected in 2015, and he promised Nigerians that he was going to, A, fight corruption, he was going to secure the country, and also he was going to ensure that the economy grew. And if you look at it from an economic standpoint, the inflation is high unemployment, indices like the country with the most poor people. Yes, there's some grants, but there's a lot of people living in IDPs, internally displaced persons. Insecurity is at a massive high. Kidnappings and even killings, and even some territory has been taken over. And the insecurity is spread across the country. In fact, the Southeast is now a no-go area, and some people are still kept in captivity or custody without trial, and even where the judges, the courts say, release this person, the government still keeps them. So there's been a lot of abuse of power. There's been a lot of tyranny. In the last 8 years, Nigerians have committed so much suicide. And in fact, the phenomenon of japa, which means to leave, to run away, has gained ground. And there are thousands of young Nigerians, coupled with who have fled abroad in search of education, given the fact that even the ASU strike, the Academic Staff Union, the universities were on strike for almost 10 months. So it's a total disaster if you have to score this government. But of course, their supporters would say that they've fixed infrastructure, that they've reduced corruption, that they've brought back the Abacha loot. But it's been a very difficult 8 years for Nigerians, not to talk about the price of oil, which is now sitting at 300 naira per litre, in a country where people are actually really suffering to pay their bills. It's been a very difficult 8 years.
And Adetunji, you just, sorry to cut you there, you just painted it quite differently, because for the first time, someone is saying that this looks like a referendum on the ruling party. And how difficult can it be for a ruling party who has a candidate going into this election to campaign without it looking as if you're also running the government down?
Look, I've said it many times that the only way that the APC can win this election is if we were either to bring Nelson Mandela, who is already passed away since 2013, 10 years this year that Nelson Mandela left this planet, and then you can bring maybe Barack Obama. Those are the only two people that can win it for the ANC. Because of course we can't bring Jesus Christ or the Pope to contest in an election. But aside of that, their record is so poor, and Nigerians are fed up of this current government, that they will be so happy to see them go away. I mean, the president doesn't even address Nigerians. There's a lot of crisis in the country at the moment. The president is busy going to collect awards for all sorts of matters. And if you recall, the president stayed outside Nigeria for more than 1 year in a hospital, or at least recuperating in the UK. So the president hasn't really been present largely, and he's been quite aloof, and there's been a lot of deaths and destruction under the APC government. So anyone that is running, and to then couple that with a candidate who a lot is not known about his past, there's serious allegations about, very bad things, almost serious crimes in high, and you just wonder why the gentleman is running. But again, I suspect that since he said it's his life ambition and it's his turn, Bola Tinubu, in my view, represents a very serious, embarrassing, if you like, figure, not only for Nigeria, as Africa's most populous country and most largest economy, but for the continent. It's almost like another Paul Biya scenario, where you just packages someone who is not fit for the highest office in the land. In fact, it's a tragedy of note.
And let's see if we can close in the next minute or so. Speak to the electorates now. What should guide the electorates in going to this election in the next 29 days?
I think, look, if you have to put the money on it, Nigeria is too big a country and too fragile at the moment to be experimenting. If you have to ask me, I believe the Nigerian is an experienced leader who's humane, someone who has, if you like, a father figure, somebody who's, if you like, I don't want to use the words, somebody who will unite the country. But, unity, people talk about unity all the time, but I think the person in the mold of the former vice president has a lot of experience at the federal level. I'm not trying to market him, but I believe out of the three, is the most experienced, and also he represents a pan-Nigerian. I mean, he's the first lady. If he wins, the first lady will be Yoruba, and his deputy is from the Delta of Igbo extraction. So he's got a balanced portfolio, if you like. But of course, Obi is also quite popular because people want change, but Nigeria can't afford to start afresh. The PDP years also brought a lot of glory to the country, largest economy. I mean, GSM grew very fast, and there was a lot of jobs, and banks blossomed, and many billionaires like Femi Otedola, this other gentleman, Aliko Dangote, Jimovia, Tony Elumelu, they all came under the PDP government. Of course, there was corruption, but the economy grew in leaps and bounds, and Nigeria had its place in Africa, particularly under the Obasanjo Yaradua years. They were golden years for the PDP.
All right, okay, I think this is a fine place for us to say many thanks for being such nice company. Adetunji Omotola. I hope we'll have this conversation in the days to come. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.